All right, I formally want to thank all the parents for coming to the graduation ceremony. I ask all of y'all to please hold your applause until everybody is called. Let's get started. Tyler Wilson, congratulations. Emily Hutcherson, Tyler congratulations. Congratulations. John Davidson, Emily Hutcherson, Tyler congratulations. John. You better go ahead. Congratulations. I ask again, can we please hold all the applause to everybody is called?
That's my motherfucking bet. Go ahead, Darnell. I know that's
Leslie Cooper. Congratulations. Todd Baker. Congratulations. Latrice Singh.
That's my motherfucking name.
I'm sorry. I just stumbled on that one. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I am your host, Joe Neerman, a.k.a. Good Lawgic. I hope you all had a phenomenal day. If you just slipped on over here from Tim Pool's stream, welcome. My name is Good Lawgic. Well, my name is Joe Neerman, but folks call me Good Lawgic. I hope you're going to stick around here. I've actually appeared on Tim Pool's show, debating some leftist attorney. I am a New York attorney, and I basically break down law, politics, and tonight it's actually going to be a pretty law-heavy show as I try to explain to you what's going on in current events. Particularly tonight, I'm going to be covering Judge Boasberg and just how insane his decision is that he issued today. And that what's worse than it being insane is that if you know how to read a decision, I'm going to show you where he actually knows it's insane and still doesn't care. And in it, he's pretty much ordering the return of over 100 illegal aliens who are purportedly members of Tren de Aragua. So there you go. That's just how insane Judge Boasberg is. Also, we have the Senate pushing forward with their efforts to try and abolish sanctuary states, sanctuary cities. We're going to see a little bit about that and how that's progressing. And finally, I want to talk to you all about developments in Pete Hegseth's efforts to try and punish Seditious Six former member, one of the Seditious Six, the former member of the Navy, Captain Mark Kelly, and try and punish him by taking him to a military tribunal, which a federal judge today has put a hold on, at least for today. So we're going to go over that as well. All that and more if you stick with us. Plus, we have a goal, which is that if we hit our nightly goal, which is 15 super chats of $10 or more during the course of the evening. It could be super chats, it could be Rumble Rants, it could be ghetto, it could be the ghetto, it could be digger dollars. I don't care. I have a neighbor who watches my show sometimes, and he said, what if I come knocking on your door in the middle of the show and give you $10? Will you count that toward the goal? I said, yes, I would. So we'll see. That definitely could happen. Anyway, all that and more coming up. So please lock it in. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you hit like, share, subscribe, all that other good stuff. And because it's Thursday, I should tell you first and foremost, I'm a little bit under the weather. You might hear it in my voice. It's not quite as dulcet as I like it tonight. And because it's Thursday, that means it's third person Thursday. So, Good Lawgic just wants to remind you that if you send in super chats, which refer to yourself in the third person, the Good Lawgic would be all the more impressed with you. And also, seeing as how it's Thursday, it means it's time for us to bring on in here our based friend, and that, of course, is Jim Tells You. How are you, brother?
What's up, everybody? I hope you feel better. Oh,
Thank
my God.
you.
Some good matzo ball soup will make you feel a lot better.
Chicken soup.
Yeah, well, you know.
You can chicken soup with matzo balls. Yeah. That's the way you do it. Chicken soup with matzo balls. That's how my people like it.
Yes.
Anyway. That's Lady Logic saying that's how my people roll. So, yeah, You asked me about this, about Twitter. Right before I went live, just to let you know, right before Good Lawgic came live for y'all. So Jim was mentioning this whole Twitter thing that he said when I sent him a link, all of a sudden there's a whole security thing going on with it. Good Lawgic has been dealing with that a lot over the last couple of weeks because when he was on vacation, so there was a whole issue that Good Lawgic had while coming home, that his phone was dying very rapidly. And Grok claimed that you go into your apps, you go into your phone and see what's burning the battery hardest. And it was very clearly X. X was just burning the hell out of the phone. Wow, I sound terrible. So it was burning the heck out of the phone. And what they recommended is that I set the settings in the phone to basically shut the phone down, shut X out every time I walk away from the app, which is what it basically does. So whenever Good Lawgic cuts down X, there's this whole security thing they want to send me to come back in there, and that's just that my phone doesn't just get eaten away by X.
How old is your phone? How old is your phone, if you don't mind me asking? Is it more than 2 years old, 3 years old?
Is it more than 2 years old? Probably. Yeah.
Because the batteries do not last. That's the problem. The new batteries, they're they're great. But then, do you leave it plugged in all the time?
No.
Because if that's another bad thing, if you leave your phone plugged in all the time, it never, because the phones only have so many charging and, discharging and charging cycles in them, the batteries. And so if you leave it plugged in all the time, you're eating up those recharging because it's constantly trying to charge the phone instead of letting the phone, you're supposed to let the phone come down almost all the way and then charge it all the way up. And then let it come down all the way and charge it all the way up. And otherwise, it makes it last longer, they say. I don't know. But every 2 years, you should get your battery replaced in your phone.
I think I have a Samsung 7.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter what it is. But you used to be able to do it yourself. Now you got to take them in to make them do it. But I think personally, they put stuff in the phones to make them wear the battery out. So you go, I get a new phone. I got to get a new phone.
Right. Right. It could be. It could be. I never understood how also having a full memory eats your battery. If it's things that you're not opening, and if you store 5,000 pictures in there, I don't understand why that would eat your battery or slow down the phone. But apparently it does. Apparently they say it does. There's a common belief of that. No, this doesn't count for the goal, Wesley. It doesn't count for the goal. So I appreciate the effort, but no. All right. Let's get started talking about. I want to start off with Judge Boasberg. That's where we really
the count.
Where we need Boasberg. But I want to explain to you. We do have that goal. I was mentioning tonight's goal, and I don't know if I fully fleshed out.
I don't think you did because I don't.
I don't think I didn't think I fully fleshed out this goal. Okay, so in order to flesh out the goal, I want to show you. I need to show you all a clip of Judge Hawley yelling at Attorney General Ellison. This is Keith Ellison from Minnesota.
I saw some good clips of that with someone asking him about Mexico. I don't think it was Hawley. I think it was someone else asking him about Mexico and are these countries safe places?
Now this is what we're gonna do because I really want you all to appreciate just what I'm offering up here because it's a really much sweeter prize than it probably looks like in print. So we're gonna watch before we get into Judge Boasberg. This is Josh Hawley drilling Keith Ellison, and here's about the fraud that goes on in the state and his direct involvement with the fraudsters themselves.
Mr. Ellison, let me start with you. You're the Attorney General of the state of Minnesota. Do I have that correct? That's a yes.
Sir, you're aware of my job. You know the answer to that.
You're not going to answer my questions? Are we going to start this way? Are you the Attorney General of the state of Minnesota? Yes or no?
You know the answer.
Mr. Ellison, you're in my courtroom now. You're under oath. So I suggest that you answer my questions. You the chief law enforcement officer of the state of Minnesota? Yes or no? Let's try another question. Are you familiar with the $9 billion in historic fraud out of your state, including the $250 million in the Feeding you familiar with Future program alone? You familiar with that? Don't turn to the pages in your book to get your potted answers. Are you familiar with it? Yes or no?
Yes, I am familiar with it.
Very familiar, aren't you? Because the people who ran the Feeding Our Futures program came to you in your official office in the state capitol December 11th, 2021.
They're your
and
buddies.
asked for your help in getting investigators off their backs. They complained to you for upwards of an hour about state investigators going after them, and they begged you to help them, and you agreed to it. Amazing.
So he's saying there's a recording of you spending an hour with the fraudsters who are coming to you saying, hey, we're being investigated. Please stop the investigation from coming. And you spent upwards of an hour with them.
Amazingly. And we know you did.
And you said, sure, I'll help you out. I'll help stop these investigations into your $9 billion worth of fraud.
That's not
because
true.
it's all caught on tape.
Yeah,
Every single sentence is caught on tape. Here's what you said. Let's
And
take a look.
obviously you didn't
You
listen
said
to
it's
the
not a
tape.
question. You said to them, send me the names of all these.
It's a 54-minute conversation that he's quoting from in this clip. That entire conversation is what I'm offering to watch with you all on a members-only show, members and diggers. Members and diggers show. Maybe we'll do a Rumble also. Maybe we'll do a Rumble also. We'll see. Members, diggers, we'll see. I'm not sure about Rumble. I'm not sure. But I'm going to be going through all 54 minutes of that dialogue with you, where we're going to listen to Keith Ellison promising to help these fraudsters shove away the investigators. And in exchange, he ends up taking from them, a week later, he ends up getting from them $10,000.
Folks who are investigating them. You said to them, send me their names. And I'll take that list and I'll call the person over at Education who's investigating them and say, what's going on? Why am I getting these complaints? Then he went on to say, I already have my team working on this. What day should we get together to discuss it again? You made pledge after pledge to them. You said, we've got to make sure this guy who's investigating them stops it. You said, you have my attention. I'm concerned about this. You said, let's go fight these people, meaning the people who are investigating the fraud. Why'd you do it? Why'd you help them?
Are you going to let me answer?
Please, we're all ears.
So first of all, you're cherry picking quotes out of there.
Why did you help
I
them?
thought you were going to let me answer.
Why did you
Are you
help
going to let
them?
me answer?
Why did you help
You
them?
let me answer and I'll answer you.
Tell the
He's such a douchebag, this guy.
truth and I'll let you answer.
I will tell the truth.
Good.
Let's do that.
That'd be a nice change. Why'd you help them?
No, now see, Mr. Chairman, I didn't come here to be insulted. I came here
You
voluntarily.
came here for the truth. Let's
I
have
came
it.
here- I
Why
didn't
did
come
you
here
help
vol- I
them? The
came here
quotes are
voluntarily.
here. They're
But
in
look,
black and white, and every
yeah,
member of this audience
and they're
can listen to the
and they're-
recording. It's 54 minutes long.
Do
It's
you-
all in public.
does-
You can Google it right now and listen
Right,
to it.
and listen to it
Why'd
all.
you help them?
First of all, I didn't help them.
You did help
No,
them.
I did not. I certainly didn't.
You're saying you didn't do anything for them. You didn't.
Well, wait a minute.
I already have my team working on this again. That's not you.
I have
So ventriloquist?
my team assisted with the information that led to the prosecution and conviction of these
No,
people.
you didn't. You didn't lift
Yes,
a
we
finger to
did.
prosecute him. No, you did not.
No,
You didn't
because
lift a finger
it
to
was a
prosecute him.
federal
You had,
prosecution.
BS. You had
Okay.
whistleblowers
But
come to you as early as 2019.
You're the one talking BS.
Hey, listen, it's my
You're the one
time.
who doesn't know what you're talking about,
Oh,
sir.
no, sir. You
You're the
now have
one
encountered the truth and you
cherry-picking
don't like it.
quotes.
Why'd you take their
You're the
money?
one taking their
Why'd you
money.
take their money?
I didn't.
You took
No, that's a false
$10,000.
No, that's a false statement. That is a false
$10,000
statement.
9 days after the meeting.
False
You
statement.
took $10,000. Here's what
Untrue.
happened. They went to your office.
That's a
They
false
solicited
statement.
money from
They
you.
did
They
not come to
solicited
my
help
office.
from you.
That's also wrong.
They came to your office.
No,
It
they
was your
didn't.
official office. You
No, they
met with them
didn't.
for 54 minutes.
No, they didn't.
asked you for help. You pledged it to them, and they talked repeatedly about money. In fact, it's all they talked
That's
about.
a lie.
Money, 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 money. They
No.
said,
Anyhow, so that's the 54-minute conversation. That 54-minute conversation is what I will be covering. Assuming we hit our goal tonight, that's what I'm going to be reviewing. The 54-minute conversation that Keith Ellison had with fraudsters, wherein he was basically hearing their grievances about being investigated and committing towards helping them. And they talk about how they understand that he needs money. They understand that, and that they realize that their community should invest more into looking out for politicians who are helpful to their interests. You're gonna get to hear all of that. Assuming we hit our goal. If not, I can maybe send you a link, hook you up. I'll send you a link and hook you up. We'll see. Anyhow, so that's the teaser that you have for you. Whoa, didn't even do that. I lost you. He's not here. That's not me. I didn't do that. It looked like me. I know, but he fell off. Jim, come back, Jim. I don't know where I'm sure he'll be back. Anyhow, in the interim, we should start to talk about Judge Boasberg. That's where we really want to start. That's where we want to start. Judge Boasberg, as reported by ABC News over here, orders the return of Venezuelans citing flagrancy of due process violations. We're going to look through the order in a moment, but this is just a short summary here. U.S. District Judge James Boasberg has ordered the Trump administration to facilitate the return of the Venezuelan migrants who were deported to El Salvador's CICA prison last year in violation of a court order. Wasn't in violation of a court order. That's wrong. This is they should have written purportedly in violation of a court order, because that's what Boasberg claims, but Trump and the government says they didn't. Boasberg on Thursday criticized the administration's refusal to offer remedies for the deportees for what he called the flagrancy of government's due process violations. Our starting point is the court's prior findings that the deportees were denied due process. Let's look at his decision here. This is his decision. We're going to go through this relatively quickly. We're going to zip through this, because what he wrote here is just astonishing. It's astonishing given the context of what this is about. So, again, just so you all understand, you might recall that back in March or April 2025, we're talking nearly a year now, that after Trump via executive order put forward that under the Alien Enemies Act, that he was declaring Tren de Aragua to be a terrorist organization which has invaded our country and was ordering the deportation of Venezuelans, that he started rounding them up. And they were on a plane in Texas when counsel for this group of 100 or 130 of them or so went running to court in Washington, D.C., magically got themselves Judge Boasberg, and he entered a TRO saying, "Don't you dare fly them out." Trump says that they were already in the air at that point and heading out. They're on their way already. They ended up in CICA, then they ended up in Venezuela. Some of them went to a third country afterwards. So they've been bouncing around. This case ended up, and it really raised all sorts of questions as to what the hell the judge is thinking, in that where would he have jurisdiction to handle any of this? Because normally, if they're going to file an application in federal court, they have to file a habeas petition. And sure enough, when Trump went to appeal this issue, and he brought this up before them, the Supreme Court, he had to go all the way up to the Supreme Court to fight this. And in that decision, in this case, the court basically came out with a per curiam decision saying, we grant the application and vacate the TRO. So this TRO was vacated. The detainees seek equitable relief against the implementation of the proclamation and against removal under EAE. They challenge the government's interpretation of the act and assert they do not fall within the category of removable alien enemies. So they're saying we don't have a right to be here. But we don't even have to start thinking about that. We don't reach those arguments. We're not even going to be thinking about, do they have a right? Do they not have a right? Why not? Why not? Well, because challenges to removal under the AEA, a statute which largely precludes judicial review, meaning most of the time, most of these challenges do not even get to a regular federal court, must be brought in habeas. meaning via what's called a habeas petition. And when you're talking about habeas, regardless of whether detainees formally request release from confinement because their claims for relief necessarily imply the invalidity of their confinement or removal under the AEA, their claims fall within the core of the writ of habeas corpus and therefore must be brought in habeas. So habeas is basically saying you're doing something wrongful with my body, and that is a claim that's called a habeas petition or habeas corpus petition that they have to file. Okay. So what's the problem with reading this as a habeas petition? Well, for core habeas petition, jurisdiction lies only in the district, in one district, the district of confinement. So you want to know why we're not assessing anything here? Because Judge Boasberg has no jurisdiction. The only one who would have any jurisdiction here, the only one who could weigh in at all in this particular circumstance would be someone from the Fifth Circuit, Southern District of Texas, which is where they were situated. They were in Texas. How does some judge in DC have jurisdiction here? So what they were saying in this case is Judge Boasberg has no jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is a fancy term that attorneys use, which means power, authority. So what they're saying is Judge Boasberg has no authority here, because the only way they could come to court is through a habeas petition, and a habeas petition must be brought in the jurisdiction, in the locale where they are confined, where they are situated, which would be in Texas, not 3,000 miles away, 2,000 miles away in Washington, D.C., because they happen to like the D.C. judges. So that's what the court was saying here. And that's why they were basically, that's why they said this whole thing is not going to work here. It's not going to work here. Now, meanwhile, at the same time as this case was going on, there was another case involving an individual you might remember. It's Kilmar Abrego Garcia, commonly referred to, what's his nickname? Kilmar Abrego Garcia? Jim?
Maryland Man. The Maryland Man. Maryland Man.
Maryland Dad. Yes. The human trafficker who's lovingly referred to as Maryland Man. And he did better in court with the Supreme Court than this group of people did. There were so many problems with this JGG application, which is what they call this, by the initials of one of the petitioners, who would. It was Donald Trump, President of the United States, versus JGG et al. There's so many problems with this petition. They tried to make a class. It's very difficult to figure out how you would make such a class, how the class would be certified, how it got certified so quickly. But really, it doesn't make sense to say that there's a class at all. But before you get to any of these things, the issue is you got no jurisdiction here, which is why it is shocking with the decision that came out today from Judge Boasberg, because really he should have taken that to heart to say, you don't have any jurisdiction here. You have no jurisdiction to be issuing any sort of relief. He's still marching forward saying, well, since I issued the order and you didn't follow the order, I want to have you held in contempt. Because that's how much of a lunatic. So even though my order was completely illegal, even though I far exceeded any bounds of authority that I actually have, I still want you to be held in contempt. Why? Because I'm a freaking federal judge and I'm just so special. So even when I issue a patently retarded off order, that any attorney would look at this and say, who the hell do you think you are to issue this? You don't have any authority here, but it is a written order. You have to follow it. Otherwise, I can have you held in contempt. That's Judge Boasberg. You talk about the heady rush of power corrupting an individual, where it's like so much arrogance and hubris of this individual. So what does he write here? He says, on December 22nd, 2025. Well, before I get to that, let me catch up on some of the chats that have been popping in here, so you all don't think I'm just ignoring you, because I'm not. But no, Johnny believes one in the hole for the goal. No, Johnny believes one in the hole for the goal. We are one in the hole for the goal. That is. So I didn't open up the chat. I did. Now I started the chat over it for the diggers. I feel bad that I left them behind there. Please don't be mad at me. Tammy Fayette says, Tammy says hi and thinks you'd make a fun senator. Thank you. Thank you. If Good Lawgic ever ran for Senate, that would be the tagline. Vote for Good Lawgic, the fun senator. That's not at all a creepy tagline. A vote for Good Lawgic is not at all creepy. Just had a power outage here in Southwest Florida. Oh, well, seems like it's remedied.
Well, no, I turned my generator on and I'm on Starlink, so everything was off. I did. I just immediately,
as soon as the power
went, as soon as the power went out, boom, I went and cranked on a generator and fired up Starlink. So
I thought it was just some sort of
No, my power just went out. And I looked and I had nothing. Like my cell phone didn't even work. Wow. I had to wait till Starlink fired up to send you the message to say my power was out.
I thought it was IBS.
Irritable bowel syndrome.
When the moment calls, the moment calls.
Okay.
So, Joe, your thought on Bondi being replaced, will it happen soon? Not soon enough. Probably not this year. Sadly.
I think the problem is if he fires Bondi, it makes him look bad. Because why did he have her so long, and why did?
Well, I don't know.
Why did he say she's doing such a great job if he wanted to fire her?
Yeah, and he seems to really believe in her. All right, so here's his ridiculous order. On December 22nd, 2025, this court issued a memorandum of opinion finding that the government had denied due process to class of Venezuelans it deported to El Salvador last March in defiance of this court's order. So we said you ignored due process. Why you're even listening to this when the court says this is outside your jurisdiction? No one can figure that out. The court offered the government the opportunity to propose steps that would facilitate hearings for the class members or on their habeas corpus claims so that they could challenge the designations on the Alien Enemies Act and the validity of the president's proclamation. So apparently now he's recognizing it's a habeas corpus claim. So why are you ignoring what the Supreme Court told you in this very case? It has to be brought in a different jurisdiction than where you actually operate. Apparently not interested in participating in this process. You're not interested in participating in the process. You're inventing your own new process by thinking you have authority here. The government's response is essentially told the court to pound sand because you have no authority. You told the Supreme Court to pound sand. Believing that other courses would be both more productive and in line with the Supreme Court's requirements outlined in Noam v. Abrego-Garcia. See, he likes falling back to the Abrego-Garcia decision because that one is more favorable towards deported individuals.
But that court, that they keep using a quote that's not a quote, saying that they said facilitate the return. The Supreme Court never told anyone that Abrego-Garcia had to come back. They said effectuate his release from custody. That's it.
This is the decision right here.
Oh, sorry. Did I skip ahead? Sorry.
No, that's good. I like that. In this decision over here, you are correct. It's just a 1.5 page decision. And then before it comes to this statement of Justice Sotomayor, which I don't bother reading that idiocy, but which says on March 15, 2025, the United States removed Kilmar Armando Abrego-Garcia from the United States to El Salvador, where he's currently detained in the Center for Terrorism Confinement, CCOT. The U.S. acknowledged that Garcia was subject to withholding order forbidding his removal to El Salvador, so that they were not supposed to remove him there, and that the removal to El Salvador was therefore illegal. The United States represents the removal to El Salvador was a result of an administrative error. The U.S. alleges, however, that Garcia has been found to be a member of a gang of MS-13, designated foreign terrorist organization, his return to the U.S. would pose a threat to the public. Garcia responds that he's not a member of MS-13, that he's lived safely in the United States with his family for a decade and has never been charged with a crime. On Friday, April 4th, the U.S. District Court for the District of Maryland entered an order directing the government to facilitate and effectuate the return of Abrego-Garcia. Facilitate and effectuate the return of Abrego-Garcia to the United States by no later than April 7th. On the morning of April 7th, the U.S. filed this application to vacate the district court's order. The Chief Justice entered an administrative stay saying, okay, you don't have to do it by today. The application is granted in part and denied in part, subject to the direction of this order, due to the administrative stay issued by the Chief Justice. So since he already pushed it past the 7th, the deadline imposed by the district court is now passed. So there's no way you can get it done by the 7th. To that extent, the government's emergency application is effectively granted in part, and the deadline of the challenged order is no longer effective. The rest of the district court order remains in effect, but you still need a clarification. The order properly requires the government to facilitate Abrego Garcia's release from custody in El Salvador and to ensure that his case is handled as it would have been had it not been improperly moved to El Salvador. But the scope of the term effectuate in a district court's order is, however, unclear and may exceed the district court's authority. So you can't tell the government they have to effectuate his return. You can direct them to facilitate it. And what we're saying is you should clarify your directive with due regard to the deference owed to the executive branch in conduct of foreign affairs, but you cannot mandate that you have to get this done. You can't, which is what effectuate means. Effectuate means you have to make this effective. You have to make this operate. You have to make this happen. And because this is foreign affairs, which is outside the scope of judicial review, you can't tell him what they have to do with respect to dealing with a foreign country. You got no authority there. So you can say, hey, it's your job to try and work on it. Tell us what steps you're taking. And for its part, the government should be prepared to show what it can concern the steps it has taken, the prospect of further steps. So we don't want this to read as if the government can just pretend that they're not doing, ignore everything. They should, it's proper to hold their feet to the fire to ask them, well, what have you done? But what does that mean, facilitate? It's basically, see what you can do. See what you can do. And let me know how that goes.
I think that was simply because it was reported by a lot of media outlets. I don't know if the government ever said this, that he was being held there simply at our government's request. Like, I didn't think that was the case. I know that El Salvador was holding non-El Salvadorans like the Venezuelans, that we were, paid them to hold those people. But people that were Salvadoran citizens like Abrego Garcia, they were not holding them on us. They had their own charges on Abrego Garcia. That's why the president of El Salvador says we don't release terrorists.
Yeah. Which, if that happens, you would think that would be satisfactory. It's like, look, they're saying they're not releasing him. So it's an eat dirt. Anyhow, coming back here to Boasberg. Believing that other courts would be more productive and in line with the Supreme Court requirements outlined in Noam via Abrego Garcia, the court will now order the government to facilitate the return from third countries of those plaintiffs who so desire. It will also permit other plaintiffs to file their habeas supplements from abroad. They can't, none of them can file habeas with you. So this has nothing to do with you. The only authority that he would have is to basically kick this case over and say, look, we're in the wrong venue here. This has to be handled. This case is being reassigned to a district court judge in the Southern District of Texas.
Yeah, but isn't this all basically just like how they found an end around about the bond hearing stuff, where they're saying like, oh, we're going to say it's a liberty interest, so it doesn't apply, that the statute doesn't apply. This is just the same thing. They were stripped of, district courts only have the power Congress gives them. That's it. They don't have any power that Congress didn't give them to hear any cases Congress didn't tell them. So they're basically trying to say, even though the statute says we have no authority over immigration cases, we want to say we do now for habeas, even though we don't.
Yeah. As I read from this decision earlier, it has to be brought, the claims fall within the core of writ of habeas corpus. And if you want for a core habeas petitions, jurisdiction lies only in one district, the District of Confinement. The detainees are confined in Texas, so venue is improper in the District of Columbia. The judge expressly said to the Supreme Court expressly told Judge Boasberg, you don't have jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is improper here. As a result, the government is likely to succeed on the merits of this action. If it's a competent judge who's handling it. But ignoring all of that, Judge Boasberg is coming forward saying, hey, this looks like I'm now issuing new orders here. Like, the audacity of this judge is astonishing.
Well, just because he's friends with John Roberts, I guess he could do whatever he wants.
Yeah, but even John Roberts signed off saying you can't do this. And to answer your question, even if they call it some liberty petition, that doesn't change what the court said in this particular circumstance. You can't make some liberty petition that I just want to file it anywhere. That's retarded. It doesn't make any liberty petition. The court said what type of petition this is. Supreme Court said on this case, this is a habeas petition. Given the background of this case is featured in numerous prior opinions, see JGG v. Trump 772 F sub. This is not. This is what the circuit court said. Not what the Supreme Court said. The court will not retread old ground. We don't want to talk about what the Supreme Court said. And we don't want to talk about what anyone has said in the past because we just don't want to retread that. It notes simply that some of the 137 Venezuelans who were deported to the Center for Terrorism Confinement in El Salvador and subsequently released into Venezuela as a part of a prisoner swap seek to further press their habeas claims. Well, then they have to do it in the district they're confined.
Wait, they're not confined, though? None of them are confined in the U.S.
Which means they can't do it.
Which
means you can't do anything. They can't do anything.
Being deported and being deported and for for lack of whatever is not a punishment according to the Supreme Court, so it's not a harm. So you have nothing to sue over being deported.
And they can't. There's nothing you can do at this point. They would have to file a habeas petition.
They're not being detained by anybody. There's no subject matter jurisdiction because they don't have any physical jurisdiction.
You know what the remedy is? Apply for citizenship. That's their remedy. At this week's hearing on remedies, even plaintiff's counsel cannot represent how many of the 137 are still in Venezuela and how many wish to proceed with habeas. So the plaintiffs don't even know how many in their class. Not that we know how there is a class here because you couldn't even define what the class is. But counsel nonetheless did inform the court that at least a handful desired to go forward at this point. Understanding that the situation in Venezuela remains in flux, given the United States' recent law enforcement action there, so we're going to yell at Trump that he, arrested Maduro because he's such a lunatic, this judge. Their law enforcement, and crediting the government's assertion that the matters implicate foreign affairs, the Secretary of State has determined that either path that the court has suggested would risk material damage to U.S. foreign policy interests in this delicate juncture. So Rubio told us, we can't help you here. Sorry. Plaintiffs have commendably sought measured steps from the courts. So Rubio told us we should go eat a rubber duck.
The plaintiffs have no standing to be in that court at all.
They never had standing to be in this court.
He has no jurisdiction whatsoever. This is ridiculous.
Everything about
the Supreme Court hasn't stepped in.
They did step in. And they told him you're wrong.
No, but right now, Chief Justice John Roberts, who oversees the D.C. Circuit, should be write an order, a mandamus order, whatever you call it, and say, stop it, knock it off, jerk off.
Yeah.
Knock it off, jerk off, and send it to him. That's it. I would use different words, but, try to keep it PG.
So this is all John Roberts' fault for not kicking these people in line because he basically decides where these judges serve. He could make this guy like a desk jockey somewhere. As explained at the hearing, they're asking only that they permitted to file supplemental habeas pleadings on behalf of certain 137 deported individuals, that those individuals in third countries, i.e. not Venezuela or United States, could proceed with potential remote hearings if necessary, and the government provide at its expense returns to the U.S. from third countries for those so desiring. So all they want is just free flights in here, that the United States should be obligated, taxpayers should be obligated to fly illegal aliens back here.
Terrorists, illegal alien terrorists.
Yes. That's all they ask for. Plaintiffs acknowledge, as they must, that anyone who's flown back here paroled into the United States after arriving at a port of entry will be taken into U.S. custody during the pendency of further proceedings. So they're not going to be going to the Ritz. They would be in federal custody and would also potentially be subject to re-deportation at the conclusion of legal challenges. Well, it's so nice of them to admit that. Plaintiffs' prudent approach has not been replicated by their government counterparts. Plaintiffs are the good guys here. The terrorists are the good guys. The government are the bad guys. Although the Supreme Court in Abrego Garcia upheld Judge Paula Zinus' order directing the government to facilitate and effectuate the return of
That's not true. That's a fucking lie. We just looked at it. That's a lie. That's not what they said.
Well, they said it should be facilitated, not
His release. His release. Those are the words. Look at it. Facilitate the release. Nothing about returning him. And handle his case as you normally would. That's what they said.
They said facilitate the release. Release from custody in El Salvador and to ensure this case is handled. Well done. Well done.
Never said anything about bring him back. That's a made-up lie that they keep putting in these rulings so the media runs with it. And so these crazy people run around and go, oh, my God, the government, they're refusing to let these people come back, and the courts order them to.
So I'll ask you, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Once he's released from custody and he's saying he wants to come here, so what would facilitate, what would the next step be once they facilitate it? And what's the purpose of facilitating his release if not to bring him back here?
That's what I'm saying. With Abrego Garcia, they were claiming that he was only being held because the U.S. was paying El Salvador to hold him, which, as far as I know, that was not the case for any Salvadoran citizen. It was only for citizens of third countries, because they send people from Honduras, people from Venezuela.
So he should be free to roam around El Salvador, not to be in jail in El Salvador.
Well, basically, because if he's being held because the U.S. government is paying for him to be held, or so don't do that anymore. Pay for, you don't do that. Pay, that's what I understand that to be. That was not them saying like, oh, try to, because any other thing, if he was not being held at the behest of the U.S. government, they cannot order the U.S. government to intercede with a foreign party to release a criminal they're holding, because that would be a violation.
Let me introduce you to Judge Boasberg, who thinks he can.
Well, that's a violation of separation of powers.
You would think so. And the Supreme Court specifically warned him, saying, you should be mindful that you can't tell him what to do here. Defendants at every turn have objected to plaintiffs' legitimate proposals without offering a single option for remedying the injury that they inflict upon deportees of fulfilling their duty as articulated by the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court has ruled that being deported is not an injury. It's not. It's not a harm. They have no right to be here. It's not an injury. So that's a fallacy to say to repair the injury of being deported. It's not an injury according to Supreme Court precedent.
Good catch. You're correct. After extended questioning at the hearing, the government finally represented that it prefers the return of the deportees, not, however, on its dime, to remote hearings, given its concerns with logistics and other evidentiary issues at hearings. Our starting point is so here's our analysis. Here's our thoughtful analysis. Our starting point is the court's prior finding that deportees were denied due process. Okay, a conclusion that is reached more than once and one consonant with Supreme Court's early analysis of the issues. They also said you don't have jurisdiction, so why are you even going through this analysis, clown?
What is the due process for an illegal alien that's in the country?
Oh, it's much less than the due process for a citizen.
I mean, it's basically, do you have any legal right to be here? It's
notice of a hearing before an administrative judge.
Yeah,
an administrative judge is not a federal judge. It's notice of a hearing before an administrative judge. In such an instance, once again, according to the Supreme Court.
I think there's special rules, too. Like, if you're a terrorist or something like that, you're not entitled to any type of, you don't get a, amnesty, oh my God, asylum claim. You can't make an asylum claim if you're a terrorist. You're barred, according to the statute for asylum. And you probably can't get parole, all these things. So any of these people that were designated terrorists, their hearing is, oh, you're here illegally and you're a terrorist. That's it.
Yeah, it's basically, is it really you?
Yeah, is this you? Okay, goodbye. Afuera. I mean, so this whole thing about due process is like, what do you think, there's going to be a full-blown trial with people put on evidence and prove? No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't.
In such an instance, again, according to the Supreme Court, in the analogous case of Ray Garcia, the government said ensure their case is handled as it would have had it not been improperly sent to El Salvador. In other words, it's up to the government to remedy the wrong that it perpetrated here and to provide a means for doing so. They also said that you have no authority here, but you're ignoring that part of it. Were it otherwise, the government could simply remove people from the United States without providing any process, and then once they were in a foreign country, deny them any right to return for a hearing opportunity to present their case from abroad. And that's a fair point. They would have the ability to do that.
It's called the way it is. That's just the way it is. Sorry.
As Justice Sotomayor's separate statement pointed out, proper remedy is to provide Abrego Garcia with all the process to which he would have been entitled to had he not been unlawfully removed to El Salvador. Yeah, that wasn't the decision of the court, though. So she's taking her decision and reading it as if that's the decision of the court. But the court did not write that.
Yeah,
she wrote a separate statement, which was not endorsed by the court. But he's taking her statement as if that's the law, which is another bizarre way of approaching the law.
So if I'm a judge, I could take Clarence Thomas's dissent in some cases and use that as my statement of what the law is?
Think of how insane that is.
I mean, that would be great.
Yeah. That means that the government must comply with its obligations provided by Abrego Garcia with due process of law, including notice and an opportunity to be heard in any future proceedings. Indeed, she noted that it has been the government's own well-established policy to facilitate aliens' return to the United States if the alien's presence is necessary for continuing administrative removal proceedings in cases where a non-citizen has been removed pending immigration proceedings. Facilitating the return. So against this backdrop and mindful of flagrant, meaning the backdrop of that I'm basically relying on something that's not law and pretending it is the law, and mindful of the flagrancy of the government violations of the deportees' due process rights that landed plaintiffs in this situation, the court refuses to let them languish in the solutionless mire defendants propose. Now, this is never going to hold up what he's saying here ultimately, because he has no authority here, and his solution here is retarded. But this is
the thing is, this is on Congress too. Not one person in Congress has done anything, Joe. They haven't filed any paperwork to take his budget away. No more money for his staff. They could do that. They can't reduce his pay, but they don't have to pay for any staff. They don't have to provide anything else for him. Just your salary. Have a nice day.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
And it's also it's really more on Roberts. He could reassign him. He could say, you're acting like a jackass. I'm reassigning you.
What really needs to happen is we need to dissolve the D.C. Circuit. It needs to go away.
100%.
It does not serve any purpose except for protecting Democrats. That's it.
Yep. The court will thus order defendants to take several discrete actions that will begin the remedial process for at least some plaintiffs, as the Supreme Court has required in similar circumstances. It does so while treading lightly, as it must in the area of foreign affairs. Sure. Respecting the government's preference, as indicated in the most recent hearing, the court will require it to parole into United States custody any plaintiff who appears at a U.S. port of entry. So if they show up at a port of entry, you have to take them into parole. This number, at least according to plaintiffs, will likely be very small, if not zero. In addition, the government shall offer a boarding... What?
The parole is set up by statute, and it's supposed to be on a case-by-case basis, solely at the authority of the Secretary of DHS. That's the statute. All right? Nowhere does it give a judge authority to say people get paroled. Nowhere. There is no judicial review of the decision to parole. That's another thing that's been going on with other cases, with the TPS shit and other stuff. It's like, that's decisions were statutorily given to the Secretary of DHS.
We need to lock Jim in a room with Judge Boasberg. That's what I'm seeing.
Only one would come out, and it wouldn't be him. Because I would bore him to... I don't.
Respecting government's preferences indicated in the most recent hearing, the court will require them to parole at port of entry. The number, at least according to plaintiffs, would likely be small, not zero. In addition, the government shall offer a boarding letter to any plaintiff in a third country who requests commercial air travel to the United States. I would tell them, read between the lines. Gosh. To find facilitating aliens' return is to engage in activities which allow a lawful removed alien to travel to the United States, such as by issuing a boarding letter to permit commercial air travel, and if warranted, parole the alien into the United States upon his or her arrival at a U.S. port of entry. Once again, at this point, we're not talking about a substantial number of people. Of course not. I'm not.
How would you know, since they won't even give us their names? They're all allowed to proceed under pseudonyms.
You're talking about 137 people. That's basically what we, as far as we know. Right. Particularly, the court is because the court, mindful of previous mentioned foreign affairs concerns, does not extend this requirement to deportees remaining in Venezuela, and such individuals would be detained upon arrival.
You know, it would be a shame, Joe. I'm just saying, it would be a real shame if the new administration of Venezuela decided to arrest all 137 guys and lock them up somewhere and say, no, you can't talk to them. And you can't see him. It would be a shame. It's too bad we don't have any type of relationship with the new president of Venezuela.
Oh my! I can't believe that happened. We asked them not to. We tried to facilitate.
They
Plaintiffs
were
also,
still mad at us. Yes, they were mad.
They're mad that we have Maduro. Plaintiffs also request that such boarding letter include government payment of the cost of air travel, given the court has already found that the removal is unlawful as opposed to the situation contemplated by the cited directive, which how it is they made that finding is ridiculous also, which notes that facilitating an alien's return does not necessarily include funding an alien's travel. The court deems that a reasonable request that we should pay for it. It's unclear why plaintiffs should bear the financial cost of return in such an instance.
We should charge them actually the financial cost of finding them and sending them there. That's the thing. There should be a fee. Oh, we had to spend 20 guys and send them out for 3 days to find you. You're going to pay that cost.
Well, we don't have to go looking for them. They have to show up to us.
I'm talking about in general, like whatever it costs to find them and originally detain them and deport them, charge them that fee.
It's worth emphasizing that this situation would never have arisen had the government simply afforded plaintiffs constitutional rights before initially deporting them. They did, and you have no authority to say otherwise. And there's no one who has authority who has made the findings that you've made. So where you're coming up with this is just asinine. Plaintiffs in third countries or in Venezuela may also file supplemental habeas pleadings seeking to show the proclamation under which they were deported unlawfully and invoke the Alien Enemies Act. Like how it is that he's reached this finding that they unlawfully invoke the Aliens Enemies Act when there's been no case that's been properly before him is an astonishing overreach by Judge Boasberg, a man who's so used to I'm assuming his arms are like 8 feet long by the amount of overreach this guy regularly engages in.
Somebody must be talking to him and promising him something, because there's no way he gets there's no way he can advance. He's stuck at where he's at, and he might get if the country was to vote the way the people actually cared about, what actually matters, there would be the votes to remove Boasberg.
Yeah. Whether hearings will be required and the logistics of such hearings may be determined at a future date. In addition, to the extent that the government contends that such pleadings are independent habeas petitions for which the court has no jurisdiction given plaintiff's current lack of custody, it may offer such arguments in opposition to any forthcoming filing. The court, however, need not address this question today. Let me explain to you just how insane this paragraph is. Okay?
I don't have any authority.
What he's basically, aside from the fact that I have no authority, what he's basically saying is over here that you're going to say I have no authority because they have to be in custody, but we don't have to think about that today. Why would you not have to think about that? You're now invoking powers based on your position relevant to these litigants. The court doesn't have to address that question today. Why not? Why not? How do you come in here? Everything about what you're supposed to be doing, if you're actually issuing a lawful order, everything has to be like, okay, we're here because of this statute, and jurisdiction is proper, and this is proper, and this is the proper court for this. This is a standard basic stuff that comes out at the beginning of a decision like this. And if the decision is lawful, but this is not a lawful decision, and he knows it's not a lawful decision. And what he basically says is, I know you're going to say that this is not lawful, but you can bring that up down the road. I'm not going to address that. What? I know it's unlawful, but we don't need to talk about that today. That's what he says. The court, however, look, you're going to say the court has no jurisdiction because the plaintiff's current lack of custody. They can only bring a habeas petition wherever they're in custody. They're not in custody. You have no jurisdiction here. Are they in D.C.? No. Oh, you have no jurisdiction here. What are you talking about? Why are you even issuing any sort of order here? So I know that you're going to say that, but the court, however, need not address this question today. What? I know I'm going to be overturned.
That's step one. That's step one, right? Of any judge. Do I have jurisdiction?
Yes. Yes. Do I have the authority? What remedies can I possibly have the authority under the law to issue here? If I agree with this side, what remedies am I empowered to help you reach a resolution to remedy your problem here? That's step one. He has no, okay. Judge Boasberg has no more authority to issue an order relevant to these fellows and their habeas petitions from his courtroom in D.C. than Jim Satala has to issue orders relevant to those same people.
Now I'm thinking I should issue some orders.
You should. It's every bit as effective. It's every bit as effective. I'm issuing an order right now that that the Trump administration should not bring them in here. It's just as effective as Judge Boasberg's.
I'm issuing an order that Judge Boasberg should be arrested for treason and sedition.
He wants them, and he's daring them to impeach him. That's what he's doing. He's daring them to impeach him. The court accordingly orders that plaintiffs shall file under seal a notice, including plaintiffs are currently in which third countries. Plaintiffs shall, by February 27th, file a notice noting the number of plaintiffs who want to come back here. And then by March 9th, file a notice giving the number of plaintiffs in Venezuela who wish to file supplements to their habeas class petition. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there can be another 500 who want to come in here. Who
Didn't the Supreme
knows?
Court already say that habeas can't be a class action?
Of course it can't be a class action. None of this makes sense.
Because every person is different? and has
None
different
of this
situations?
makes sense. The government shall promptly return to plaintiffs upon written request by their current counsel all passports and identification documents that an agency currently retains and should make good faith efforts to obtain any of plaintiffs' passports or identification documents that are transferred to El Salvador. It's like the audacity of this guy. The government shall file a status report by March 13th explaining how and when it will transport any plaintiffs seeking return to U.S. from a third country. And in the status report,
by raft towed behind us.
we have a whole bunch of
rafts. Each one gets their own inner tube. We just drag them along.
We're gonna drag them behind the raft in the water. We give them little floaties. In the status report, the government shall inform the court as to the feasibility of returning plaintiffs still in Venezuela who wish to return for their proceedings. It shall also describe the steps taken to obtain any passports, identification documents from El Salvador. It's unbelievable, the audacity of this judge. It's really unbelievable. He should be humiliated. He needs to be humiliated, this guy. He's a disaster. He's terrible. James Spargan, remember, for 4 months, says, if you ever wondered what the Grim Reaper looked like without his hood, that's I can't argue with that. If the House voted to impeach Boasberg, would he be off the table and ineffective until the Senate voted on it? Or can you still make magic laws in his fairy tale world? He can still make magic. He can still make magic laws.
It would be up to the Supreme Court to tell him if he was impeached by the House, articles of impeachment. It would be up to them. Like, oh yeah, the Supreme Court could tell him you're suspended. They have total control over their own branch. They have supervisory control.
They could. Right,
that's what I'm saying.
Supreme
Court. Yeah,
Supreme
Supreme Court could tell him. Yeah, say you're suspended.
Okay, yeah, that could happen. But as
as
far as there being a requirement under law to strip him of his powers, no.
There's nothing in the law that's nowhere.
They could tell him that tomorrow, irrespective of impeachment.
Right. Oh yeah, they could. They could suspend him. They could. Well, they could. Just not without pay. That's the one thing. Their pay is protected. Their pay is protected from Congress. Is it protected from the?
His pay is not protected.
I thought there's a says that no, their pay cannot be reduced during their term.
Where?
In the clause for federal judges. I can swear it's in there.
In the Constitution, you're talking about?
Yes.
Constitution doesn't contemplate district court judges, only Supreme Court judges.
Well, it's got to be in the statute then, maybe, because it says that about Supreme Court justices. I'm pretty sure, right?
Oh yeah, Article 3
and
says,
basically, Article 3, and those are Article 3 judges.
Article
People
3
just
says,
assume.
Article 3 says you shall pay them.
Yeah, pay can't be reduced or whatever. But so people assume that applies to federal.
I don't know that it says you can't be reduced. It does. Pull up Article 3. You'll see. It doesn't say pay can't be reduced. It says you shall pay them appropriately. So yeah, they could decide to not pay him. I think that would start a massive legal battle. I don't know how he would fare in that. Congress.
Who would resolve the dispute between Congress, like, and the judges? You know what I mean? Like, who?
It would have to be Congress defunding him, probably.
Yeah.
You can't give an EO saying we're not paying you anymore. That wouldn't fly. But Congress isn't about to do that because they're a bunch of cucks. So that's not going to happen. Should we go from one bad decision to another? Should we just get this out of the way?
It says right here, it says, at all times and a state of times, receive for their services a compensation which shall not be diminished during their continuance in office.
That's Supreme Court.
Right, and so it carries over to the federal bench.
Does it?
I think so.
Under what? It's definitely not in the Constitution.
I might be in the statute then.
You're saying you're claiming there's a statute that says that?
I don't. That's what everyone always told me. I don't know. I just assumed that they weren't lying to me.
Do I have to ask Grok this?
Go ahead, ask him.
Hey, Grok, can you answer a quick question for me?
Yes, sir, I can.
Sure thing.
I didn't know he was going to actually answer you.
District court judges are not referenced anywhere in the Constitution, right?
That's true. They're established by statute, not directly in the Constitution.
Which
Article
statute
3
is that?
So basically, yes. Congress decides how many district courts exist, where they sit, and who gets appointed. All borrowed power.
Yeah, my question was, which statute accounts for there being district court judges?
The main one is Title 28 of the U.S. Code, specifically Section 133. It lays out the whole district court system, how judges get picked, the number of seats, their salaries, pretty much everything Congress ever voted on.
What salaries is set in that statute?
Section 133 doesn't pin down exact numbers. Those float in a different spot. Title 28, Section 135 spells it out. District judges pull in about $225,000 a year as of last year's bump.
Is that by statute?
Yep, straight from statute. Section 135 of Title 28 sets the base pay for district judges at $222,800 annually, though Congress keeps tweaking it with annual adjustments for inflation.
Well, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Ask him if it could be reduced.
It can't be. I'm sure it cannot. I'm sure that cannot be reduced. All right. As long as he's not empowered, I don't think we care much about the $220,000. Judges need to receive an annual performance reviews of the bottom 10% dismissed with no opportunity to be a judge again. That would be amazing. But
That's the thing a lot of people don't realize too. I don't know, maybe this because your audience is so well versed and they're all on top of things and they're diggers and all that, so they get it, you know. But you always get elections in your states, and they'll be for judgeships to keep a judge, to retentions. Usually, some of them are get actual for election for the judges. They have to run for election. But some states it's just, do you want to retain the judge or do you want to take them away and have the governor appoint new judges? Those are important things that you should look into. It's hard to find the information. But, you can't just look at who appointed those judges and say, oh, this guy was appointed by this governor who was a leftist weirdo. Maybe I don't want to vote to retain that judge.
yeah, I don't foresee that happening.
I'm saying for people to pay attention in your states, to make sure the judges that are in charge of your state Supreme Court, your state, municipal courts, those are all people who have to stand for election at some point, either for retention or for elected office. If they're appointed, they have to, you want to keep them. You have to vote to stay. Some places they have to run for judgeship every 6 years. It's an election thing, and that's actually a lot of Democrat states are like that, where it's you know what I mean. They can be appointed, but they run for election. A judge is an elected office, which it shouldn't be an elected office if you want them to impartially judge cases. Why would you want political parties involved in that? Seems like the opposite of what would make good sense.
You would think so, but there's a lot which is just very baffling about our current system. One of which is that in order to get to a military tribunal, you might have to face a judge first in federal court. Pete Hegseth was blocked by a judge on Thursday from punishing Democrat Senator Mark Kelly, who urged troops not to carry out illegal orders from Donald Trump. Richard L. Leon, a Bush-appointed federal judge, they love citing when it's a Republican, for the District of Columbia. A Republican in the District of Columbia is not a Republican like you.
No.
They're not.
No.
Slapped the defense secretary with the blunt ruling after the Pentagon tried to strip Senator Mark Kelly, a retired Navy captain, of his rank and pension.
They tried to reduce it slightly. It wasn't they weren't stripping it. They reduced his rank by one.
I think they want. Is that all they wanted?
Yeah, one rank. He was from captain to commander, and then they were going to reduce his pay commensurate to that. That was it. was probably, he's probably going to lose a. Did he? In all honesty, it's more of a for him. It's more of a over his legacy, over his name and stuff like that. It's not about the money. He could care about losing $2,000 a month.
Ultimately, this whole case is about the principle of the matter.
Yeah, the principle.
Are we going to allow people to do this or not? And this judge is like, we are not, in his opinion. Rather than try to shrink the First Amendment liberties of retired service members, Secretary Hegseth and his fellow defendants might reflect and be grateful for the wisdom and expertise that retired service members have brought to public discussions and debate on military matters in our nation over the past 250 years, he wrote in his 29-page ruling.
Well, that doesn't sound like an unbiased opinion.
What a retarded statement. This is why Jim says we have to just get rid of that DC Circuit Court. This is just a joke. What a joke. Reflect on the fact that he's being a complete douchebag and telling military members not to follow their commander-in-chief.
So according to this judge, if a military member served for so many years with distinction, we should just listen to what they say. So there was this guy who used to be the commandant of West Point who had a lot of opinions. And you know what they did a couple years ago? They tore down his statue everywhere.
Oh. Wait, which one are you talking about?
Robert E. Lee.
Robert E. Lee?
Yes.
Yeah. So, yeah. Would he be quoting Robert E. Lee? Because, his years of service? Stupid.
Literally the greatest general in America probably ever.
Oh.
And even Grant would admit that.
You want to know how you know that this judge is incompetent? Because he continues with, if so, they will more fully appreciate why the Founding Fathers made the free speech, the First Amendment, and the Bill of Rights. I'm sorry. I need to reread that the way it's written. If so, they will be more fully appreciate why the Founding Fathers made free speech, the First Amendment, and the Bill of Rights. Who puts an exclamation point? Have you ever seen a federal judge put an exclamation point? Like what the hell is wrong with you? Who the hell puts an exclamation point in a decision? What the heck is that?
Who appointed him? George H.W. Bush?
Yeah. No, I think this was
just as a Bush appointee. So it's probably H.W. appointed. So he's probably like old and and it's probably he probably did not write the opinion. Is what
I don't remember anyone ever putting an exclamation point
because he didn't write the opinion. His clerk did.
So what? You're a clerk.
So it's a young woke clerk. Think about it. I'm gonna tell them.
They sound like a 10th grader.
Well, have you talked to these kids
Fathers
lately?
made free speech, the First Amendment, the Bill of Rights.
What's the Second Amendment? Ask them that. Which one was number 2? So they thought it was.
You should be aware of the fact that it's the First Amendment and the Bill of Rights. So stupid. It's like this is an embarrassment. I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed to be associated with the judiciary. Today is a day that the entire law community should hang their head in shame. Between Judge Boasberg and Judge Leon here. Forget about how stupid this ruling is. Forget about how ridiculous and asinine it is. But the writing on this is just, are you out of your mind? Like, how stupid, how childish do you sound here? This is insane. Who puts an exclamation point? Oh my God. Kelly, along with 5 of the Democratic lawmakers, were seditious and jerks. I have to sort of edit it for, Sorry, I am fighting a terrible cold here. For the Daily Mail. There were seditious jerks who basically told the military to disregard lawful orders, pretending that they're illegal. Trump rejected by accusing Kelly and his fellow Democrats of seditious behavior, punishable by death. Apparently, he realized that they would struggle to read, and that if you put in exclamation points, it might resonate with them. The judge's scathing ruling came after Kelly sued Hegseth and the Defense Department for launching a military investigation into his public statements that could result in loss of his rank. Judge Leon excoriated the Trump administration for not going through the proper channels so the military can have first crack at adjudicating his First Amendment rights. So there you go. The judge also noted that Kelly made his comments while exercising the congressional oversight authority in the Senate Armed Services Committee.
Hold on a second, though. This is They basically had what's called like a captain, like in a Navy would be, it's captain's mast, basically, for Kelly. The commanding officer has a hearing. Kelly could demand a court-martial. That's his right. He didn't.
Instead, he decided to duck
To
around.
do this and file a lawsuit.
Yeah.
That's where this should end. The proper way to adjudicate this would have been to him say, no, I do not accept this. I want a court-martial. That's my right.
He specifically does not want that.
Correct. He doesn't.
Because he doesn't want to be judged by other military who think that he's a
So this is
joke.
why this case should get tossed. This judge has no standing because he did not follow the proper procedure, which is request a court-martial.
Look at this. It comes again. To say the least, our retired veterans deserve more respect from the government. Our Constitution demands they receive it. Exclamation point. I wonder if we're going to see 3 exclamation points at some point. What a joke. What an utter joke. How humiliating for Judge Leon. Attorney for the Arizona lawmaker claimed Hegseth was trying to punish Kelly solely for the content and viewpoint of his political speech.
I think if I'm not mistaken, if you want to appeal a military ruling, like if you go to a court-martial, let's say, and you get found guilty and you want to appeal it, you have to appeal it all through the military first to the Judge Advocate General and all this different stuff. And then
he's trying to cut himself off from having to go before a military tribunal. That's
right.
the whole objective.
But you would have to go through all that stages and then go to, I believe, straight to the appeals court. I don't think it goes to a district court. I think it's like there's other things where it goes straight to appeals court. It doesn't go to a district court.
Right. Much like my case against Merchan went straight to the appellate division.
Right.
So instead of going to the Supreme Court, which is a lower level in New York. So Judge Leon's decision blocks the Defense Department from continuing its administrative review into Kelly's comments until the matter is adjudicated by the court. Hegseth responded to the ruling by vowing to appeal the judge's decision. This will be immediately appealed. Sedition is sedition, Captain. The White House reiterated Hegseth's vow to overturn the judge's ruling, with White House spokeswoman Anna Kelly telling the Daily Mail this will not be the final say on the matter. That's certainly true. Shocking ruling comes after Washington, D.C. grand jury on Tuesday rejected the Justice Department bid to indict Kelly and 5 other Democrat lawmakers. That's a decision which, you want to weigh in on that?
Well,
go for it.
What happened to grand jury secrecy? What happened to that? You're not supposed to know when they, you know what I mean? When they choose not to indict, you're not supposed to know names. You're not supposed to know any of this stuff. You're not even supposed to know what they're talking about.
Yep.
At all. What it's about. It's supposed to be all
very timely leaks.
Right, to protect the innocent.
Very, very timely leaks. I'll tell you right now that failure to indict was because it was in D.C., which is just a retarded jurisdiction. And I can promise you that
I would have did it where the recordings were made.
If 6 congressmen had, well, it was probably D.C. They looked like
they were recorded at different places. They were in different places.
Well, I'll tell you right now that those different places look like their own personal offices.
So aren't some of the office buildings in Virginia?
I'm not sure.
That's how they were able to charge Comey in Virginia, right?
He was testifying from his home in Virginia.
Yeah, he was testifying at the Senate office building in Virginia. I'm like pretty sure.
Well, I think he's sitting on his couch in his home, and he was on Zoom. But that's my recollection. I could be mistaken. But I'll tell you right now, what I said about that when I covered that the other day is that's retarded jurisdiction. And I can promise you, if 6 Republicans had said this about Biden, they definitely would have been charged.
Oh, yeah, they would have been indicted, no problem.
And indicted in 2 seconds because it's just a retarded jurisdiction. That being said, I don't think we should be going after them. Like, I don't like these charges because I do think that they are probably covered by the speech and debate clause, arguably. And secondly, really more important than that is we should err on the side of free speech. What I said is that Captain Mark Kelly bound himself to restrict his own speech by taking the retirement, by opting for retirement from the Navy. So much like I bind myself to certain speech restrictions by re-upping for the bar every 2 years and saying I want to stay on as an attorney. So I can't. There's certain things I cannot say because I'm prohibited from saying. So too, if you're a retired member of the military, you have to follow UCMJ.
let me run this by you. So, do you think, like, the fact that they decided to try to charge these people in DC seems like the most retarded thing anybody would try to do? So, was it purposely done to fail so that they could say, well, we tried to do something, as opposed to actually going after the people in local jurisdictions and other places that are actively subverting, that you could charge with insurrection because they're participating in these anti-ICE protests. They're communicating. They're supplying supplies. They're checking, license plate thing to get the people the license plate information on these people and all this stuff. Where you could have went after those people and charged them with insurrection or sedition.
Okay. So now you're asking me to speculate whether Bondi purposefully kiboshed this prosecution of the seditious six.
Maybe not her. Maybe someone else. There's somebody, in my opinion, there's still somebody involved in the DOJ that is not on the MAGA team.
In which case, the leak would be coming from the prosecution themselves.
Correct.
Look, I can't rule anything out, and you're all going to reach your own conclusions on this. My gut would be not like that, only because there's such humiliation in failing to be able to indict them. That you look like a loser.
That's what I'm saying. Why? Why would you do it? Who
look like
think,
a loser?
Yeah, who would think? Nobody you know. Seriously, I'd be something to ask Ron Coleman. Why would anybody in DOJ think that you could get charges against 6 Democrats in D.C.? They let Marion Barry go, who was caught on fucking video smoking crack with hookers. Remember the governor or the mayor of D.C.? This was years ago.
It's a retarded jurisdiction.
It is. That's what I'm saying.
I've told the story over many times that when I was covering the Bannon trial and they were having voir dire to select a jury for one of the J6 defendants, and they gave them all questionnaires to answer before they would, be questioned as far as like coming up there. And everyone had a brother, an uncle, a sister, a spouse, a child, a parent who worked for a senator, worked for the media, worked for, CNN. Everyone, if they themselves were not employed by Washington insiders, had an immediate family relative who was. And I say immediate, like, I mean immediate, like, it's like, yeah, my brother is like, my brother's been a staffer for Adam Schiff for the last 15 years, kind of thing. And it's like all of them. And it always seems like a Democrat. It's almost like the Republicans hire nobody.
Yeah, it's the same people. It's all the same people. They work for different staffs. It doesn't matter. They're part of the crew. They come from the same pool. And all these people know how everything's work, and they know who to go where and where all the offices are. Everything's so complicated. That's why I think my plan is the best plan. All right. You apportion the Congress people correctly. All right. For the population, like 35,000 people. Every 35,000 gets a congressman. And you have them, since we have the technology, there's no reason to have all the people going to Washington. Have them stay in their districts. And everything can be done by video. You don't need any of this. No, you don't need a Capitol. Just be for like a museum. You don't need the people to show up there and do anything. Maybe to have like a ceremony or something. They go there for like a State of the Union or something. But other than that, what do we need? What are we doing? You cannot get representation when you have 1 million citizens have one representative.
You're right.
You're right. And that's the way it is. And it's.
What you're basically saying is that our electoral college should not be 430.
It should be like 35,000 or something.
It would be actually, I ran the numbers on this when I heard you suggest this once. It'd be somewhere between 7,000 and 10,000 members of Congress.
Yeah.
Members of the House. There should be 7,000 to 10,000 members of the House.
And there should be. It was supposed to be that way. They kept changing it because they're like, oh, we keep getting more people. We can't do it like this. But that's why that was your voice. That was the everyday person was supposed to be a guy you knew that was going to go. Somebody you knew because you were small enough people that you knew that guy, or you knew somebody who knew him. You could get word, hey, I have a problem. I need this fixed. That's the government we're supposed to have, not this shit we got now.
There was a statute that was passed in the beginning of the 20th century, which basically capped it at 430.
Yeah, and that's ridiculous.
I agree with you.
Because we no longer have representative government. We don't.
You're 100% right. You're 100% right. I think that Congress would be a lot better if there were thousands of...
You would probably, honestly, we wouldn't have a two-party system anymore, that's for sure. Because there's no way that you wouldn't have factions forming and people being able to get voted in other parties. You would actually have better representation. It would not be a parliamentary system. You know, it wouldn't be. It would be the same what we have now, but we would have a lot of people, you know, because that's the representation we deserve. The amount of money we pay and the taxes and everything, we deserve to be represented.
It's true.
There really needs to be a push to take this, to get it done. You know, just as, well, you're going to have so much more people, it's going to cost so much money. No, because the staffs wouldn't need to be so big either. So basically, you would probably have the same number of people working for the, you know, instead of one congressman having a staff of 50, the congressman would have a staff of 2.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. You have to figure out where you would put them all in one room.
You know, that's what I'm saying. You wouldn't have to.
Well,
Really, you could have everything done by. No, you meet by video conference, Zoom, whatever you want to do it. You know, have a Zoom video conference. It should all be public anyway. Whatever. They're all on a big screen and different things. Yeah. A little dot, you know, a little square. We have the technology. You know, they could get like a giant screen, like a 20-foot screen that you have all their pictures up there and have them talk. You know, and they could actually rotate. You know what I mean? Holograms, even just like Star Wars. You know, with the Senate, do it like that. We just need some people with. We already got weird people with blue hair and weird makeup shit that people from. God, it would be crazy. It would be awesome. People speaking different weird languages. Fuck, it would be great.
That would be great.
Pat says it'll be unmanageable. That's the point. Nothing gets passed. They can't restrict our lives anymore. Great, hooray!
I don't know. I don't know if that's good, but yeah. Anyhow, here is. Do you want to hear Mark Kelly's statement afterwards?
Sure.
His 2-minute statement. I don't know if I want to hear this because hearing him crow is just going to make me angry.
Today, a federal court made clear that Pete Hegseth violated the Constitution when
It sounded like an infant from the federal court.
he tried to punish me for something I said. But this case was never just about me.
Whenever it's never just about me, it's just about you.
This administration was sending a message to millions of retired
You were sending a message to thousands of military, telling them to disobey their commander-in-chief. So, rotten hell, jackass.
veterans that they too can be censured or demoted just for speaking out. That's why I couldn't let this stand. Now, this is a critical moment to show this administration that they can't keep undermining the freedoms that generations of Americans like me went to war to defend.
I don't think he's going to win on appeal. I need to sort of look at the arguments that were presented there.
What should happen is, like I said, it should go, and they should go, wait, you didn't go through the proper progress of the military justice system before you came here and sued.
Yeah, this doesn't feel like, because it's like, why would you have a say as far as what this whole decision seems like something that the military justice, the UCMJ is, they're supposed to. He's governed by that. So once he's governed by that, so let a military tribunal decide this. Why are you even weighing in here?
I mean, basically what he did would be the same as if you wanted to file a lawsuit against somebody for something and you went to the U.S. Supreme Court and said, here. It eventually will end up here, you know.
These district court judges don't know where their lane is. They just think their lane is everywhere.
The First Amendment, it's a foundation of our democracy.
Oh, shut up. We don't have a democracy. You're a joke. I can't listen to this.
1 second.
I can't. Not when they're crowing about like idiocy like that. I don't know why you have George Clooney there as your avatar. That's crazy. Why would he have George Clooney? I can't have that. I can't have that. People might think that I'm okay with George Clooney. I'm not. I'm sorry. Why would you have George Clooney there? Here's Mike Kelly. It's not Mike Kelly, excuse me. Mike Lee. Big difference. All right. Yeah. You're doing the George Clooney avatar there?
No, that was me.
That's not you.
That's me. Pull it up. I'll show you. It's me.
You can
only look at the face. Blow it up. That's me. That's AI Jim.
That's AI Jim.
Yeah, see? Make it full screen.
Yeah.
See?
I can't even tell you apart.
Wait a minute. This guy was nominated on September 10th, 2001. Oh my God, they were in on 9/11?
Yeah, probably. We got nominated by W on September 10th, 2001. Let's hear from Mike Lee talking about the Save America Act, which he's very excited thinking it might pass.
Guess what? One of my colleagues in the Senate, Senator John Ossoff from Georgia, a Democrat, he's in a tough spot. He finds himself in this odd position of requiring Georgians, people from his home state, to show government-issued photo IDs to attend his rallies. But in the meantime, perhaps acting under the thumb of Chuck Schumer, he's actively fighting against voter ID at the ballot box. Now, requiring an ID to hear Senator Ossoff, but not to vote in federal elections for the U.S. Senate, for example, defies common sense. Just another case of rules for thee, but not for me, from the Democrats. Senator Ossoff knows that he's in perhaps the most vulnerable Senate seat on the map up for election in 2026. He's running in a state that President Trump won, which is why he opposes common sense voter ID laws and efforts to secure our elections. Look, showing an ID to vote isn't controversial. Only American citizens should be voting in our elections, and over 80% of Americans agree. So look, it's time for the Democratic Party to stop opposing legislation that 80% of Americans like, want, need, and deserve. Americans deserve and need free, fair, and safe, secure elections. And they need senators who are willing to fight for them, not for Chuck Schumer.
Amen. Amen. And yeah, we need to keep pounding on this, that they have different rules for themselves. It's classic Democrats. Rules for thee, but not for me. I think that should be a message that we keep throwing out there. Rules for thee, but not for me. You get to vet who's coming in there, but we can't vet who's going into a ballot box, to a ballot booth. That's ridiculous. District Court judge and authority on the Constitution over the executive branch, SCOTUS does. This is true. SCOTUS does under Marbury v. Madison. So maybe they don't even, but who knows? Certainly they look at it that way. Should we talk a little bit about the sanctuary cities and states?
Yes, definitely.
Because it looks as if there's a whole fight going on now to try and stop them from actually.
I've been watching Fetterman. Fetterman actually seems to be making sense. He's like, "What are you guys doing? Stop it!" Like, they're gonna primary Fetterman. You know that, right? I mean, they're gonna try to get rid of him. It's gonna be rough.
I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be fine. But here's Lindsey Graham explaining the situation with sanctuary cities and states and the bill that they're looking to pass.
Thank you very much. So DHS apparently is going to shut down. I hope we can get it back open. What is this all about? Obey the law? Good. I got an idea for if you want people to obey the law in this country, do away with sanctuary cities. Senator Murphy is from Connecticut. It's one of 12 sanctuary states. What does that mean? Local officials, state officials refuse to work with the federal government to turn people over to the federal government as required by federal law. So you want to obey the law in Connecticut? Stop being a sanctuary state. You want to fix immigration? Have policies that make sense. Y'all act like for 4 years.
He looks like he's lost his zest, doesn't he?
He doesn't look good.
Like he's trying to ratchet it up.
I think he's got to be in his late 70s, right?
I'm fine with him passing the torch. Seriously, I'm really fine with him passing the torch. He looks like he looks weathered. He looks like I feel tonight, because I feel like really under the weather. He looks weathered.
Biden wasn't president. Every Democratic senator aided and abetted the Biden administration with a massive invasion of this country. You turned the other way. You never said a word. You let Biden obliterate our border. You let him send people into the interior on planes, trains, and automobiles. Only God knows what happened, who's here. You said it. You said Biden, you did nothing. And here's what I've learned about my friends on the Democratic side. They're never going to agree to deport anybody because all their proposals make it pretty much impossible to deport anybody. Body cameras, that makes sense. If you want to find out how to make ICE more professional, count me in. But your proposal is to require a judicial warrant to deport somebody. Can you imagine how many judges you would need if you got 15 million legal people here to go get a warrant from a judge? This is not a criminal proceeding. This is an administrative proceeding. The president, as the commander-in-chief, has the ability.
Joe, how are they supposed to get a warrant from a federal judge unless they're going to repeal the Immigration and Nationalization Act, which says district court judges have no role to play
The whole thing
in
is
immigration?
they know it's crap. They're talking to the low IQ voter. That's who they're talking to with all that stuff. That's who they're talking to. Hands one says district court judges are inferior courts, including the 3-to-1 in Article 3, Section 1, which says both SCOTUS and inferior courts cannot be reduced. Just read it, Joe. I'm not reading it now. I'm not up to it tonight. Dominion F. Dark says Jim tells you should block Good Lawgic from getting his hands on Anton's firm and juicy meat from King of Biltong at Biltong USA.
Oh, the Biltong guy. I haven't tried it yet. I need to try some. He never asked to advertise on my show, so.
Daniel Wilson sent $10 over there trying to get us across the finish, saying it's been almost 4 years since Daniel last sent Joe money, but Joe will watch the Harley. He's pushing it. He's pushing for it. So we do have, I think it's a phenomenal thing. And I will plow through to get there as soon as we hit our goal. Johnny believes that the next 25 to 50 years, I like how everyone's talking in third person. This is
I just realized that.
Johnny believes the next 25 to 50 years, you will have to submit your case to a Grok-style AI system before it can go to Supreme Court. And at some point, Supreme Court will be phased out. Could be.
Oh, so exactly like the movie Idiocracy, where there was this computer thing at the Walmart or whatever, Costco, where they had to go to get the answer, and it was broke, so no one had answers. And nobody knew how to fix it because we were all too stupid by that point.
So let's get back to Senator Ladybugs.
To detain and deport people administratively. You don't need a federal judge. You're trying to create a mechanism so we will fail cleaning up your mess. We got elected to clean up your mess. We're going to hold.
They definitely want Trump to fail in removing these people. That's definitely true. Master Debater hates sanctuary cities. Master Debater loves the 10th Amendment. Can you imagine what Obama would have done if the feds could compel the states even more? Bad idea. So he doesn't like it. He doesn't like this whole compelling.
But if there could be, here's the thing: if there could be sanctuary states against immigration law, why did the Supreme Court tell Missouri they couldn't have a sanctuary state on the Second Amendment? Because Missouri passed a law, and it was overwhelmingly passed and signed by the governor, that said, yeah, the NFA and all that gun, that's all unconstitutional. We're not following that. We're going to follow the Second Amendment. You can't infringe on the right to keep and bear arms. And the Supreme Court said, nope, that's unconstitutional. You can't do that. So why is it not the same for immigration law?
These are good questions.
I mean, immigration law is the same type. It's a statute, just like gun control is a statute. It's not a constitutional thing.
Well, what Good Lawgic, along the lines of what Jim is saying, Good Lawgic would say to Master Debater is that Supremacy Clause says immigration policy is the exclusive domain of the federal government. So statutes that purport to stand in the way of that seem ridiculous, seem to be willfully flouting the Supremacy Clause. So saying, no, you can do this here. You don't have to follow immigration law here.
ICE agents accountable if they went too far. Tom Holman went to Minnesota to turn the heat down. Great. Democratic politicians all over this country been turning the heat up. You're wedded to lousy, dangerous policies. Senator Murphy, why don't you get Connecticut right with federal law? Here's what's happened. We got 12 sanctuary states, 200 plus sanctuary communities, 25,000 people. ICE has requested a detainer, ignored for 2 years. States have refused to work with ICE for 25,000 people that have a detainer at the federal level. Sanctuary city law is a magnet for future illegal immigration. Sanctuary city policies are full of fraud, like in Minneapolis. They bring.
And he's right, because when you have sanctuary states or sanctuary cities, what that ends up doing is telling potential illegal aliens, hey, if you make it to this state, you're going to be safe. It's going to be okay. So get across the border and get to California, get to Nevada. You'll be fine.
Out the worst in the system, not the best, and it breaks down law and order. We've been talking for weeks about you want to fix things. You're blocking a debate. I can't believe I'm here. I thought we were going to work together to try to find out how to reform ICE and also address the bottom line problem.
Why does ICE need to be reformed? See, these spineless rhinos are immediately saying ICE did something wrong by enforcing the law. So this is it. Like I said, I hate the Republican Party. I can't stand them because they are not like, oh, we're going to fix things. They're actually just telling the Democrats, slow down. They're just like, slow down, slow down, slow down. Not so fast. Don't fucking screw us over so fast. Go slow. They like it slow.
Useless neocons. Weak. He's a weak man, doing his best to stand up there.
That's the problem. Not ICE, not Miller, not me, not Noam. Policies that have been in place that entice more illegal immigration. Every Democratic senator turned the other way during the 4 years of Biden. You didn't.
ICE needs to be ramped up. That's what we need from ICE. We need their policies ramped up so that they are removing abuelas, so that they're removing everyone, irrespective. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if they've been law-abiding citizens for the last 10 years. If they're not here legally, get rid of them. It's not fair to the immigrants. It's not fair to the legal immigrants. It's not fair to anyone.
I was really disheartened when they pulled Bovino out of Minnesota. I took that as surrender. You know, basically like, oh, send this guy. Immediately they sent Homan in, and so Homan started saying they made mistakes. And that. I didn't like that at all. I was very.
So now you have me bring this up. Not this. This is what I got to bring up now. This can make you even angrier.
I have proposed, and President Trump has concurred, that this surge operation conclude.
Why, they got them all? Did they get everyone, the last one? Because that's what Bovino said. Everyone. He was going to get everyone.
And we'll continue to the next week. We have a lot of work to do across this country to remove public safety risk who shouldn't even be in this country, and to deliver on President Trump's promise for strong border security and mass deportation. Law enforcement officers drawn down for the surge operation will either return to the duty stations or be assigned elsewhere to achieve just that. I have proposed, and President Trump has concurred.
So that's the first thing he said. He seems to be walking that back in this clip here where he's talking to Laura Ingraham a little bit.
He sent me to Minneapolis to do three things. De-escalate, done. Take public safety threats off the street. Over 4,000 illegal aliens were arrested, done. Gain cooperation from state and local law enforcement so it makes the agent's job safer to arrest a public safety threat in the safety and security of a facility, done. But even though we're drawing down resources, we still want to have hundreds of special agents here drawn down on the fraud here from the Somali community and others. Those fraud investigations can continue until they're done. We're going to hold people responsible. We're also got investigators here doing the case investigation to include Don Lemon. We're not walking away from anything. We've achieved what we came here for. This is like any other surge operation. LA, it ended. Los Angeles, it ended. Charlotte,
LA, it ended. Los Angeles, those are the same two places.
This is ending the surge, but we're not going away. And let me say this, over 800 flights a day land in St. Paul, Minnesota. If we need to come back, we'll come back.
Meanwhile, Tom, properly.
So, yeah. Saying that you're going to stay there to go after the fraudsters. What about all the other illegal aliens? What about them? What about them?
I know I voted for every single illegal alien to be deported.
Yeah.
That's what I voted for.
Yeah. This is just ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. It's not about getting out the fraudsters. Ugh. The way you handle sanctuary states is with the carrot. You remove funding as long as they're a sanctuary that does not violate the 10th Amendment. Ladybugs lost a step when Trump did not go to war. Yeah, he does. He is a huge war hawk, but he just looks old and tired. Like I said, I feel tired, okay? But I'm sick. I'm fighting a bug.
I don't no way feel tired. You know who that was, right?
No.
That was my Hillary Clinton expression. Don't remember when she did that speech? I don't no way feel tired. Try to do a Southern accent.
Mm.
Anyway, I don't know. My best Hillary impersonation. I hope I don't have any information about the downfall of them or anything like that. So don't worry, Hillary. Don't come get me.
Okay. My money in the custody jar for Jim tells you. As we're getting. I didn't notice it either, but apparently he thought he caught you. Yeah, as we're getting a late push here to try and keep me here for the because it didn't look like we were going to make it. We're getting a late push here. It'd be like, no, Joe, you're not getting an early night tonight. We'll see. We still have a ways to go.
Yes,
So
I count eight.
We do not want to compel a state to act. Prohibit from interference, yes, but not to act federalism. Respectfully, I disagree on this one. We're free to disagree. I understand where you're coming from. I get it. I disagree on this one.
You could compel a state to act if they're violating constitutional rights, right? I mean, you can compel a state to, so
this isn't violating constitutional rights.
No,
his point is we should be limiting that as much as possible. That's his point. His point was we should be limiting that as much as possible. So, I don't think that on this one, I'm like, you know what? I think that when you're talking about when you're talking about compelling them to work with turning over illegal aliens, I don't see how that's jeopardizing American civil liberties. I don't look at them as I look at Americans.
No, I don't think you can force them to go enforce immigration law. But if you say we want this guy, don't release him. Tell us when you're going to release him. We'll come pick him up. That's not forcing them to do anything except for follow the law. I mean, what's the difference? If you have a criminal warrant that says this guy you're wanted for, a kidnapping, they're not going to release the guy, right? That would be a violation of the law, wouldn't it?
Well, they're supposed to be giving them to us. Look, he said that they're going to be giving over anyone who's been charged. I'll tell you this. We're seeing here from two of my longtime followers disagreement with my position here, and they're not even fully in agreement with each other. We have Master Debater, who's been here since pretty much day one, saying no, we shouldn't be forcing the states to act. We have over in the ghetto, Hands One Pack saying that where was it? Was it in the ghetto or was it here? You might have said it here. Yeah, I did say it here. Yeah, we had Allegan News saying the way you handle sanctuary states is with the carrot, you remove funding as long as they're a sanctuary that does not violate the 10th Amendment. So they're both mindful of the 10th Amendment.
But didn't they try to do that and all the judges said you can't take the money away?
I don't remember that happening.
So it would have to be Congress that would have to pass a statute saying you have to do this or don't get money.
Right, and they could, in theory.
They could put that actually in a budget with a reconciliation.
Here's the thing. I don't see a distinction between the carrot and the stick here. Like, I don't see that. What he's proposing here, and I don't know if we got to it yet, what he was proposing, Senator Ladybugs, was a notion that
if you got 50
was the notion that that we would throw people in jail if they don't comply.
I think it's already the law, personally. I think there's already a law. The one about aiding and harboring and aiding, it makes you liable for crimes they commit.
Yeah, but you can't, there's no individual that you could cite on that. But this would basically make them the individual. Although it seems like it would probably be a lower level crime than that. But the point that I'm getting at is, okay, while I understand in principle the distinction between the carrot of funding, saying we're going to remove your carrot, take away your carrots, take away your funding as a way of federal government controlling the states. And then you have the other thing, which we shouldn't even be allowing them to do that, which is what Master Debater seems to be saying, is we don't want to compel a state to act. So we shouldn't, by his logic, I assume he would disagree with Elegant News and say, no, we shouldn't even be removing a carrot. We shouldn't be impacting them at all. So my response to Elegant News is, I feel as if this is just semantics. This is just like, oh, we can't do it this way, so instead we'll do it this other way. This other way is a terrible way in general also. The whole carrot thing is terrible. So I understand it's legal, you're allowed to do it, but it's a terrible thing. It's a terrible way that the federal government controls states. It's ridiculous how they use that. So you're saying it's better if we do it in this ridiculous and objectionable way. Okay. I mean, if you think that that's a better way to do it, okay. I guess I have no problem doing it that way also. But it's like we could stand on principle and say, hey, we're never going to intercede and force a state to do something. Well, we can stop them from doing things we don't want under the Supremacy Clause. We're not going to force them to do something under the Supremacy Clause. And I get this. And there's logic behind this. I'm simply saying this is an area of law which was always the exclusive domain of the federal government. This is an area of law like this and national defense are the two areas, and interstate commerce, I guess, are the three areas which were always the exclusive domain of the federal government. Now, interstate commerce has been so bastardized into anything that impacts interstate commerce in any way, shape, or form that it's ridiculous and became a joke. So let's just parse that aside and leave that aside. But I would say when it comes to things relating to national defense, the same way I wouldn't want a state, a border state like a Minnesota or a Montana to start saying, hey, we're going to have different regulations for what we're doing on the border. Because we think it's okay to like basically we want to have moose roaming back and forth along the border there. You'd be like, are you out of your freaking minds? So you could say back to me, well, it's states' rights, state rights. It's like, no, you're not going to just put up there little tunnels to easily walk back and forth.
No, well, we're not against tunnels though.
Or ripping down our border. It just doesn't make any sense.
I mean, the diggers would be very upset if you put them out of work because you got rid of tunnels.
So you wouldn't say it with respect to national security. You recognize it doesn't work there. And I think that these areas which are exclusively domain of, and always have been the exclusive domain of the federal government, like immigration, that yeah, they can basically say to a state the same way I'm forcing you to have a border across the top of your state or the southern tip of your state down south. I can also force you to turn over illegal aliens who are in your possession. It's like it's part of the basic foundational elements to what the federal government is supposed to be controlling. They're supposed to be controlling, making sure that our borders are not invaded by illegal aliens or by foreign armies, or by or whether a foreign army is in one uniform or in 15 million different uniforms of whatever they're wearing in the day-to-day clothing. See what I'm saying? Like, I don't see where there's a difference here. And so you're saying, well, I don't want to trample on the 10th Amendment. Okay, I understand that. I don't want to trample on the 10th Amendment either. I don't think this is doing anything to the 10th Amendment. Because I don't look at, when it comes to this thing, when it comes to this issue, I have so little regard for the civil liberties. And because even though I understand this is the state's civil liberty, it's really a civil liberty that's designed to help protect the illegal alien. And I get it. You can look at it from the perspective of the individual illegal alien, or you can look at it from the perspective of the state. And either of those are fair ways to couch this philosophical argument. But even when you're looking at it from the perspective of the state, it's the state's interest in protecting illegal aliens and not working with you to the protection of illegal aliens.
Here's a question, though. Do you think that because of the 17th Amendment, which said the states no longer, basically the senators are no longer the representative of the state as an entity, they're now a representative of the people of the state.
Okay.
Doesn't that somehow lessen what the state's role is under the Constitution? as an entity?
I don't think so, because that's just with respect to that individual role. I don't think that parses beyond the individual role as senator. It's an interesting question you're asking, but I don't think it changes. My point is, so that's why I respectfully disagree with Master Debater on this one. And I respect him. I think he's a smart guy, and I agree with in general with the principle. I just don't think the principle should be applying in this particular context when you're talking about immigration law. And I also don't see that there's so much of a gain in doing it by funding the way Allegan News is saying, because to me that's just like a joke. That's almost like I'm not touching you type of thing, but it's really obviously like being invasive, completely invasive. Technically, it's okay. It's like, to me, I'm just like, you know what? I would do the carrot and the stick. That's what I would say when it comes to immigration law.
You tell them all that
It's
if
my
they
take.
don't, you make it part of the statute. Congress would have to make it part of the statutes that.
What do you
authorize all
think
these
on
payments.
this? What do you think on this? I gave you my. You have now three different opinions. You have Allegan's perspective saying you should do it with the carrot. You have Master Debater saying that no, we should not be compelling them anything at all. And you have me basically saying, and when it comes to immigration law, it's totally fine to be compelling states. Where do you
I
land
think
on
they
this?
should do both. I think they should beat them with the stick.
Oh, you're like me. So you're saying use the
beat
carrot
them with the
and
stick until they eat. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. But we're going to start making these people drink.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to have a choice. That's my opinion. I mean, because it's right there. The amount of money that the feds give to police departments like New NYC for terrorism and all the different stuff, it's upwards of $1 billion or two,
right?
That the city gets. The city. So if you don't work with us, this is part of federal law. We're not going to give you this money anymore if you're not going to help us enforce federal law. That's it.
Yeah.
Do it yourself. You're your own state. You're sovereign. You get to make these decisions. Awesome. Pay for it yourself.
That's the carrot thing.
Yeah.
That's taking away the carrot.
Really.
The stick is you're going to throw you in jail. The stick is what Lindsey Graham is waving around here, because that's. I'm going to play the rest of this clips here so you can hear what he's proposing.
Stopping the mandate that President Trump was given, which is to deal with illegal immigration.
He was yelling. I skipped the part where he was yelling at Democrats that not once did they cry, but they were crying about all these criminal illegal aliens, and none of them cry over Lincoln Riley. He's right.
And the criminal elements therein.
Jocelyn Hungary.
So I have legislation.
This is what he's proposing.
S-3805, and it says if a state or local official does not turn over to the federal government an illegal immigrant who's facing criminal charges, been convicted or facing criminal charges, then that state or local official can go to jail. You have an obligation under federal law to turn these people over. Sanctuary.
So Michelle Wu would go to jail. Jacob Fry would go to jail.
What's the odds of this?
Karen Bass would go to jail.
They could, yeah, sure. But there's already statutes, I think, that you should go after them. They're never going to pass this.
That's the stick. That's the stick. That we're gonna go after these people and basically say, and then they'll all do it, obviously, because none of them are gonna want to go to jail. So, but that's what his agenda is here. That's the stick, as opposed to the carrot is we'll keep feeding you carrots if you work with us, and we're going to take away your carrots of money if you don't work with us.
But this is Lindsey Graham.
And you're right. I agree with you.
This is Lindsey Graham. This is Lindsey Graham who tanked the 2022 election because he put forward a fucking ban on abortion like right before the election just to screw everybody over. That had no chance in hell of passing. This is another has no chance in hell of passing. It's just for his own probably fight for his primary or whatever.
Well, his primary wouldn't be until 2026. He got back in. He was reelected in 2020. So his would be in 2026.
Yeah, so the primary is right now. We're in 2026.
Yeah, it's true. I'm asleep. I'm told you. I know.
I'm
trying to focus.
States and cities, 25,000 ICE detainers denied. 25,000 people that should be deported have not been turned over to the federal government.
You're right. He's doing this because he feels like this is appealing to the base.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know. Am I that cynical because I keep seeing this stuff and I go, they should be doing this? And if this idiot in Florida, could look at this stuff and go, this is what you should be doing. This is the statute. This is the law. Do it. And then they bring cases like the case in D.C. and this stuff. It just, to me, seems like it's all made to make people go, yeah, Trump doing good. They're doing it. And I love Trump, and I want this stuff to work, but I think he is getting played by people, deep state people, rhinos around him. That's
Like
what
this
I think.
guy, like
this
this
guy.
guy.
Like, why does he like this guy? This guy fucked him over. Screwed him over and testified against him in the grand jury in Fulton County.
Yeah. He's scum, this guy. He's scum. And I agree with you. There's no way this is gonna pass. There's no way this is gonna pass. So your theory here makes sense, that this is his agenda to try and win a primary.
I believe he's getting primary. I believe he's getting primary.
He damn well better be. He damn well better be. Yeah, that's a good read.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to screw it all up.
No, you're fine. You're great. I'm in Minnesota. Homan is the mediator. We needed to get these tyrants running the state to open up prisons for ICE. Ops will continue here. Hope so. We'll see.
Like, seriously, any of these politicians, these local politicians like Frey or the mayors of these other cities, or any of these officials that are in their official capacity working with these anti-ICE people to disrupt and impede the enforcement of federal law should be arrested.
Oh yeah, Bondi's all over that. She's all over that. Remember when she talked tough about that?
Yeah, I'm saying, but
she talked tough about that a year ago. How many people
they should be arrested. Like the people paying for all this.
Crap.
Where's this massive investigation? Where's the stuff?
Yeah, she came out saying, Michelle Wu, you stand in the way of us, and we're gonna, we'll throw you in jail. And then, any charges? Any? No, nothing. Loser. She sucks. If only Biden had more power during COVID, would have been great, right? This has nothing to do with COVID. I specifically explained why it is. I explained why it was that this is immigration law.
I mean, it's completely separate. They don't, and I argue, my argument is that legal aliens have no constitutional protections. You know why? Because it says the people this, the people that, the people, and the people has been interpreted as the political body that makes up America. That's why the people have the right to keep and bear arms. Well, what's the people? Doesn't include illegal aliens because they're not the people.
Right.
So all the other protections of the Constitution are for the people of the United States, which is us, the citizens. Maybe not citizens, but people that are here legally, people that are here by permission, people that have the authority to be here, not somebody who's just invaded that we don't even know is here.
The philosophical basis for the Bill of Rights. The reason why I think philosophically, and the Supreme Court disagrees with me, so I don't want to mislead anybody about the law, but in philosophy, the Bill of Rights should have zero regard for illegal aliens or even legal visitors. It shouldn't have any regard for them at all, philosophically. Because if you think about what the Bill of Rights is, the purpose of the Bill of Rights, which to the leftists, when they want to say, they say, well, all men is created equal, endowed by his creator with certain inalienable rights, among them life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness.
Well, that's the Declaration of Independence. That's
what they'll say. It's the preamble. So they'll say, oh, so you see, all men. That applies to all people. Hence, Bill of Rights should be applying. That is Declaration of Independence. You're correct. But so they would say all men created equal. This is applying to all humans. But not so. Not so, because the objective of the Constitution is to explain how governance is going to work in our country. So when they set up the Constitution, what the purpose of the opening articles and the Bill of Rights is to basically say to our government, we need to have a government in order to be functioning, we're setting up a government in order to better empower ourselves so that we're in a healthier position. That's why we're setting up a legislative branch, an executive branch, and the judicial branch, so that we're in a better position to have an orderly society here. So we're able to live with each other in a society that is going to be productive and healthy. But we have a concern because we recognize that we are going to be giving you special powers. When you are going into the executive branch or the legislative branch, you're now being raised to a certain level above those of us who are not in these branches of government. And we have these concerns that you're going to abuse those powers. You're going to abuse that because we've seen historically going back to earlier in the 18th century, in the 17th century, 16th century, 15th century, and for millennia before that, several millennia before that, that when government gets into power and people get into power, the notion of absolute power corrupts absolutely. It was something that they recognized even in the 18th century. So they said, we know we have to give you power, but when we give you that power over us, we are limiting how much power you have over us, that you will never have these powers. Even though we're putting you in these positions of power, we are not putting you in these positions of power with respect to stripping away our freedom of speech, stripping away our freedom of religion, our right to assembly, taking away infringing our gun rights, warrantless invasions of home.
Well, technically, it wasn't really warrantless. It says you got to have probable cause and unreasonable searches and seizures. So
Correct. Unreasonable searches of our and invasions into our home, protection against self-incriminating ourselves. That even though you're going to be in this power, we're not giving you power to enable you to make us incriminate ourselves. That's what the point is. So we, the collective, who are putting you in power, are not giving you those powers over us. What about people in another country? Are we giving you powers over them? Are we limiting your powers over them? And there, no way, shape, or form are we restricting those powers. Well, what if those foreign people decide to come here? Why is it that when they're on our soil here, the government would be in any way restricted from dealing with them in any sort of different capacity than if they were 500 or 5,000 miles away? There's no difference at all. Because the only reason we put a limitation on their ability to infringe on our powers is because we're afraid they would be abusing us. We are the ones who are putting you in power. Those of us who are putting you in power, you have no right to treat us in certain respects to strip away our basic civil liberties. But everyone else, we want you to be defending us from them. Why would we handcuff your abilities to go after them in any way, shape, or form? Even when it comes to cruel and unusual punishment that you can never give to us, but I sure as hell would be totally fine with you doing that to some jerk who wants to see me dead. I'm totally fine with that. Somebody wants to kill me, my wife, and my kids. You want to use cruel and unusual punishment on them to make a lesson out of them? I say to you, God bless. And I submit to you that that's what the founding fathers would have said also. But for one reason or another, the Supreme Court decided to say, no, civil liberties, they apply to people who are in our country. You set foot in our country. Oh, all of a sudden now we conferring upon you these special rights. Why? The only reason there's a restriction on these government officials, on the police who are enforcing this, is to make sure they don't abuse us after we entrusted them with this power. But someone who did not entrust them with this power should be fearing them, because that's to our benefit. It's to our benefit of those who put them in power to actually have people who are not being protected by them fear them. So no, I don't think that they should be I think that they should be able to engage in completely bizarre and cruel, unusual punishment to an illegal alien. That's what should be philosophically. If it's bettering our lives, because the whole function of having them there is to better our lives. So whatever way possible to better our lives, that's what they should be able to do. Now, when it comes to the 10th Amendment, which is a little bit different, which is what we're talking about tonight, this is a concern that federal power is going to grow too broad. And if it grows too broad, in that case, that's going to be trampling the individuals we hear, our civil liberties and our local governance. So under the notions of federalism, I can understand and agree in 98 out of 100 cases with Master Debater and Allegan News and those of you who are basically saying states' rights, states' rights, states' rights, states' rights. I am right there with you on that. I'm simply saying that I think this is a carve-out area for me because this is an area which has always been the exclusive domain of the federal government. So it makes sense to tell the states, hey, you know what? If you want them to actually do the job properly, we're going to force you to actually work with them.
What does the 10th Amendment actually state, though? It says all laws, all powers not delegated to the federal government within are reserved for the states and the people. That's what it says.
Correct.
It doesn't say that
which means,
you can do whatever the fuck you want and ignore federal law.
Which means if you think about that when it comes to immigration, which was carved out for the federal government, they should be able to boss you around a little bit.
Yeah.
That's why it makes sense to make an exception there.
Yeah, anyway. I agree. Yeah.
Anyway. So, but that's why I get so bothered by this. Now, the Supreme Court, when they've read it, they said they have some level of civil liberties, but not the same level of civil liberties as you and me.
And
So
that's created this whole amorphous
3/5
type of thing.
3/5 of the civil liberties?
It's like they're entitled due process, not the same levels of due process. It's like they have free speech, but not the same levels of free speech. They can be removed. It's all sorts of weird sort of things, and depends on the nature of the right that we're talking about, where it sort of fluctuates
the
around.
free speech thing for like people that are here on visas or whatever, that part of the agreement of them coming here is they give up the right to participate in political protests on the U.S., right?
Yeah, that's I mean, they shouldn't be able to. Exactly, they should.
They're like a guest.
You free speech here.
You don't let somebody come in your house and they start telling you, how you run your house.
I mean, think about why would you want to have all of a sudden? It's like we just want to have communists have free reign over the way things are operating over here. I mean, it's just none of it makes any sense. None of it makes any sense. It's so illogical. And so the perspective that I'm looking at, which is philosophically and fundamentally sound, is far more sounder than anything the Supreme Court has put out on this issue. It's far more sound and far more simple. But this perspective that I'm advocating for, unfortunately, is not the perspective. It's not the law here. The law is that they do have some level of civil liberties, which kind of sucks, and it's to the detriment of Americans ultimately. So, Robert G. says that Boasberg was part of the 2020 Georgia election, and they made him a judge to immunize him from subpoenas to testify. Thoughts?
No, he's confused. He's confused. McAfee was the judge that became a judge because he had something to do with the.
Yeah, I thought
election.
Boasberg's been there a while.
Boasberg was the only part Boasberg had is Boasberg was behind the subpoenas and hid the subpoenas for Jack Smith and let them keep them secret and put non-disclosure agreements on the companies who were required by law to notify the government when the Senate. They're supposed to. There's a law that says like if a phone company gets a subpoena or something, they have to notify if it's on a congressperson, like a congressman or a senator.
Yeah.
And they basically said, no, you can't file that. The judge violated a fucking law and said you gotta ignore the law.
Yeah, Jim is correct that McAfee became a judge after the 2020 election. Boasberg was a judge since 2011. So you're probably thinking of McAfee. I did hear Robert Gouveia talk about that, and I think
that's probably why I got it confused because of Boasberg's part in that investigation with the subpoenas of Jack Smith and everything.
Possibly. Well, whatever it is, but even bringing it home with respect to McAfee, I think what Robert Gouveia speculated there is logic behind that. I don't think he speculates that it's to make it tougher to subpoena him. When I heard him talking about it, he said it's much tougher, and that's true. I guess it's probably tougher. I'm not sure, but I would think it would be tougher. You have to. It's a higher hurdle. I looked at it as a more simple type of thing, as they wanted him to play along. They wanted him to play ball, and the reward was we're going to make you a judge.
I mean, what do you think? Do you think all these judges and all these people who have connections with these NGOs, giving money and doing the different thing, like it always comes out like the judge orders this about immigrants. It's like, oh well, his wife's on this board of this NGO, and they give all this money and they raise this stuff and blah blah. They all have to be involved in illegal shit. There's obviously money.
It's so incestuous.
But why are they not investigating any of it? Or is it just that all of them are doing it so they can't get into it? Like the tax fraud stuff with the mortgages?
It's an old boys game. It's an old boys game. That's what it is. They're all OGs with each other. That's what it is. So to answer your question, I think that what Robert Gouveia said on this is logical. But to me, the simpler answer is that it was just a reward that they gave him the judgeship. And it's a nice little bonus for them that, hey, plus if the primary thing is we want to give you the reward because we're grateful for your help with the Georgia election, and plus for us it's a little tougher for you to subpoena him if he's a judge. So it's like a win-win for them. So I wouldn't say to the exclusion what Robert Gouveia is saying. I just think that the primary motivator from McAfee's position is, if I'm going to go along here, what's in it for me? So. But it could be. Who knows? Yeah, Blue State said Texas keep illegals out. Isn't that? Yeah. They have no right to keep illegals out. Yeah, that's awesome. We trust the federal government on illegals with that. Where does the power of the government come from? Not from God, because we have inalienable rights. The power of the government comes from the consent of the governed. And that's precisely correct. And that's why we said we're giving you consent with limitations on that consent to our own civil liberties, but not to the civil liberties of all of humankind, which is how it's being interpreted. Not COVID, but federal power to make states do federal bidding and apply federal law. Feds do fed, states be states. Civil rights enforced by feds in Alabama,
not Alabama forced to do stupid but constitutional. Do so. If not Alabama forced to do so. It's stupid, but it's constitutional.
I think they did force Alabama when they sent the 82nd
No, he's saying the
Airborne
National
there.
Guard. He said the National Guard went in there. It's like these things.
No, they sent if I'm not mistaken, they sent like the 82nd Airborne or 101st Airborne in there because the governor of Alabama deployed the National Guard, and so they federalized it and sent in actual. It was Eisenhower, right, or was it Kennedy? Not sure. I know it happened in 2 states. I think one maybe Mississippi, one Alabama, maybe. I don't know.
I'm not sure, but the point here is that. The point is that it's not that I'm randomly saying not COVID. I'm not randomly saying not COVID. I'm saying I told you why. I gave you a good faith reason why immigration law would be different. So that this is carved out. So in that sense, to the extent it's carved out, that's not.
What if the state started to try to do its own foreign policy? Right. And so you say like, the 10th Amendment, we get to do. No, you can't set up a treaty. California can't set up a treaty with China.
Right.
I mean, they might try. Who knows? They already have one. Who knows?
And Jim's echoing my point by saying the same way that they don't have that power when it comes to negotiating foreign treaties, they don't have that power when it comes to immigration. Now, Master Debater would say back to you, but we're not forcing them to do anything with respect to that. And here we're forcing them to do something. That's what's bothering. The compulsory element to it is what's bothering Master Debater. And I get that. I understand that. What I'm saying is we compel them to accept having a fence along our border in Arizona. We compel them. Let's say they say we don't want fences. We think it ruins the view. No, we compel you to do it. Well, you're putting up. We compel you to cede over that property to us and take it from you. So, I mean, I see what you're saying. I'm still standing firm, and I respect you for disagreeing with me. It's a healthy thing every once in a while to have respectful disagreement about, like, all right, that's where you think the line should be. I think the line should be over here, and I don't think that's jeopardizing our civil liberties the next time there's an epidemic. I don't think it's having any impact on that, or states' rights in any other way. So. That's what I got for you tonight. We did not hit our goal tonight. I probably should have made our goal that if we hit our goal, I would do a show Saturday night. That's probably what I should have done.
I think you might have limited the people that were willing to give because you made it for members only.
That's what I'm saying. Is I probably should have made it. I probably should have done it differently, but we experiment. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I thank you all for joining me. I need a link from you, my brother, so I can just throw that up there, and everyone can know where to follow you. Why don't you tell people where they can find you while you're?
You can follow me on YouTube or Rumble at Jim Tells You, JimTellsWYOU. Don't have to spell. And on X, I'm at Jim Satala. I'm also on Kick and Twitch and on Facebook and Instagram. You can find me on all those places. And the link
is in the description.
You got it already?
No.
Oh.
But by the time they're hearing me, I'll have gotten it. So that's why I was like, link is in the description.
Okay, it's right here now in the private chat.
So as I was saying, link is in the description. And feel free to check on that. And
I will be streaming Friday night, approximately 10 p.m., maybe 9, maybe 10. Friday night. If anyone wants to come and check out a show, Friday night, normal show.
I'm going to see if I can do a show on Saturday night. I'm going to see what I can do. I'm going to try. And tomorrow I may be on Layback Law. I haven't been there in a minute. It's been a hot minute since I've been on there. But depending on the topics, I was able to go on there last week. I was just like, the topics they were saying they were covering, I was like, I know nothing about this. Like, I don't know what the heck they're even talking about. So what am I going to add? I'm just going to jump in there and like just look. I understand I add to the pretty factor by like, a factor of 7, but it's not. That's not enough for me. I feel like I got to do more than that. So, but hopefully tomorrow, good chance I'll be in there. And one thing I will be doing if I am, whether I'm there or not, one thing I can assure you I won't be doing is eating any of that lamb meat, because that's not meant for me. It's not meant for you. It's meant for they, them. And do not eat the bugs. Don't do it. Don't eat the bugs. Have a good night, everyone. And as always, thank you so much for joining me. Drop a comment. Drop a comment. Drop a comment. Let me know if you think I'm right about the whole states' rights thing. I'm curious to hear your take. I'll check that out. Good night and Godspeed.